Thank you, Jennifer.
Hey, Chris, you're the host now.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You.
Hey, Jordan, I've just pushed you into panelist as well.
Hey, are you recording this locally yourself?
No, they're recording it though.
Okay, great.
So they've got cloud recording going, so they should be able to pull it up for us.
Okay, well, it's 1:30. Let's get started. So, hey everyone, my name is Jordan Van Dyke. I am the sales director for the Southeast here at Linewise, and I've also got Chris Blades with us here. And Chris is our classroom guru. So we are going to be doing some training with you guys today on Classwize, and basically going to walk you guys through the solution. Right, it's a product that you guys can use to monitor your kids, what they're doing on their device, push out content to the device, and really kind of control it inside of your classroom environment. So what we're going to do at first is just kind of let Chris walk you guys through step by step each aspect of the product, how it works, what all it's capable of. And if you would, down at the bottom, there's a Q&A section there. If you could funnel all of your questions into that Q&A during the presentation, then as soon as we're done, what we'll do is we will go back and kind of do a little Q&A session, right? So his overview will probably take anywhere from about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll spend the rest of the time that we have answering any questions. So please feel free to, anything that comes up top of your head, pop it right into the Q&A, and we will answer it as soon as he's done with his overview, and we'll kind of backtrack where we need to answer the questions. So appreciate everybody jumping on today, and I'm going to let Chris kind of take it from here, and we'll get an overview going.
Sweet. Thanks, Jordan. Hey, everybody. As Jordan said, my name's Chris. I'm the classroom guy for Linewise. And yeah, I'll just be running you through a brief overview today, how everything's put together and how to use the product as a teacher, from logging in to going through all the functions and assigning policies. I do have a habit of talking too fast. So if I do so, just let me know in chat and I will slow down. Cool. So anyway, so as a teacher, the first thing we're going to want to do to get into Classwize, let me share my screen. We are putting this into your Launchpad, so you will have a link where you can just launch and go straight in. But if that's not there, we can go to this link, which we see here, which is classroom.familyzone.com. Once this loads up, we just need to find your district. We just click the drop-down menu, type in the district name, click next, and then click continue with Google. Now, I don't have an account in your district, so I can't log in here, but I can show you the effect of that. So once we sign in with your district Google account, this is what you will see. This is Classwize. So as you can see here, this is one of my labs and one of my environments that I have running for myself, and you can see all your classes. Now, we are directly integrated with your sister student information system. So all the classes that are in the student information system where you're assigned as a teacher, you will be able to see these classes here. So as a teacher, in the first instance, when we log in and we see the classes, we need to start a class. The way we're going to start a class is click Start Class. We're going to pick a duration and go Start. So the class is now starting. We can see that by the green up here. And here we're seeing the student screens. This is the student's active screens. This typically updates like every 5 seconds. So when the student makes a change, you'll see that reflected on their active screen. You can also see what tabs they've got open here, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you know what the actual symbols are. So as an alternative, we can just go to List View, and in List View, we can basically see every tab that the student has open on their machine. Activity lets you drill down a little bit deeper. As we can see here, we can see who's online, URLs that have been accessed, unique URLs that have been accessed, categories, and who's offline. And we can drill deeper into this. So we can see what Charlotte's doing. Charlotte has 23 apps open. And this is what Charlotte would have had opened in this class session. Now this server, which I've got here, is in the wrong time zone from my computer here, so we're seeing invalid date. So what you would typically see here is the last access. So and last time it was accessed. So let's imagine 50 minutes, 45 minutes, all the way up to say, let's say a minute. That's a general overview of the class and how it's all put together and what you can see here. So I'm just going to move on to the tools section. So in tools, you can see that we have these options. So the first one we have here is open site. So open site is generally for you to open a tab and a new tab on your students' machines. And the way we achieve that is we click Class Tools, Open Site, we enter a URL, click Send, and we're going to push that site out to all of your students' machines. So we'll see LSU start populating through here. There we go, and they're just switching over. So through the tools menu is to the whole entire class. If we want to do an individual student, we can just click on the little tab icon there, and we can push that tab out to the individual student. There we go. We also have send message, self-explanatory again. We're going to essentially shoot the class a message out to the whole entire class. So we click on send message, we type in a message, click send. That's going to send that out to the whole entire class. We're going to see a little black banner pop up on one of these machines, and that's going to be that message being sent. There we go. Through the tools, the class tools option is to the whole entire class. If we wanted to send to an individual student, we can use that little send button there. I call it paper airplane. And that will send just to the individual student. Okay, let's keep working through. So focus, let me explain focus. So focus, essentially what we want to do is we want to focus the students onto a particular or multiple elements on the internet. So essentially we can set a focus and then deny all access to other services. So if I click on class tools and then focus, you can see here that it says focus internet access will block all internet access except for applications that you specify. We also have this tick box, which is to enforce the focus. So with this tick box, and then we will enter one of our services. I'm going to use Wikipedia in this example. So the effect here of when I click save, it is going to close down all of the students' tabs on their machines. It's going to open up a Wikipedia tab, and the students are now locked into only Wikipedia. If they try and open another tab, it will open and close. It's the same with another browser. And if they enter a different URL within that Wikipedia tab, which isn't Wikipedia, they'll get a block page. So we'll see that happening right here. So save the focus, Wikipedia is getting pushed out. And then we'll see the block pages start coming for these users because they're attempting to go to a different URL. Just wait for that block page to come through. There we go. Lizzie's got one, Kent's got one, and Helen will be next. To take the class out of focus, we just click on class is focused and we click resume normal internet. The good thing about it is when we resume normal internet, it'll put the student back in the identical place they were before we actually initiated it. So what that means is all the tabs that we had open on their machine will come back to exactly how they were before we initiated that first focus. You can also focus on multiple elements and multiple services. So let's use a use case here of there's a Class Dojo article. Within the Class Dojo article, there's a link off to Wikipedia. So I'm focused on multiple elements. Might be a link off to YouTube as well. So by doing save there again, we're closing down all their tabs, opening up tabs for those 3 services. Now the student can work through their Class Dojo article, get to a YouTube link or a Wikipedia link, and they'll also be able to access that as well. Yeah, but essentially now they can only lock down into those 3 services that we just selected. And again, to remove the focus, class is focused, resume normal internet. And the students go back to exactly how they were before. So what we can see here, the behavior here of Helen. So kids typically like to hide a browser behind the browser they're actually working on. So this is the effect here. So let's imagine that's the front page and Helen's got a block page and she's hiding the Wikipedia in the background. So you as a teacher have that visibility and you can see that you can see both of those sessions. This would also be the same effect if Helen was logged into 2 separate machines. So we have pause internet. So pause internet is exactly what it says. So we're essentially going to stop all internet traffic onto the students' machines. So if I go to class tools, pause internet, from here I have the option to select individual students or I can go full classroom. Once I click pause here, much the same effect is the same as focus. So it closes all their tabs down, it opens up another tab, and on that tab it essentially says browsing has been disabled by your teacher. And students can't do anything at this point. They can't open tabs, they can't open browsers, they can't go to other URLs within that tab where it says browsing has been disabled, and they're pretty much locked down. Now the one thing that's very important about pausing internet is if you are in a virtual learning environment and you're in your Zoom session or your Google Meet session, pause should not be used because essentially what we're going to do there in a virtual environment, if we pause the student's internet, then we're going to close those sessions down and their Zoom sessions are going to then drop. To remove focus, we can just click on pause and end pause. And that will put the students back exactly how they were previously before we initiated that pause. You can also pause an individual student for the pause button here. So you can see Kent's now paused, everyone else is still active, or we can even initiate it through here as well. Oh, wrong button. So essentially you can lock down individual students or the whole entire class. We also have modify students. So because we integrate and we're linked directly to your student information system, that is essentially the source of truth of who will be assigned in your classes. But what we have here is giving you the ability to add and remove students ad hoc and during the day. So let's just imagine Helen's being sent off to a library class. So the first teacher in the class is sending Helen off to the class where the teacher in the library will also be running Classwize. So the original teacher would come in and remove Helen from the class. Helen would then go to the library. Library teacher could come in, add Helen to her class and take over control. Now, because we link with your student information system, when you make those changes within your class, they will stay reflected until the sync runs again overnight. Because the student information system is your source of truth as regards who's in classes, once that runs, it will be back to how it is in that student information system the next day. We also have policies. I'm just going to remove a few policies here. So policies is where we hand that control off to the teachers and not leverage the IT admins to allow certain and specific things to run your class effectively. So your IT team has got some high level blocks which you can't overrule. Typically they're ones that you would not want to give access to either. So they're essentially your SIPA rules, and whatever your IT admins have deemed should not be accessible. But then we also have some lower order rules, which you can overrule. So typically what we would see in the lower order rules would be YouTube, for instance, a lot of streaming sites, sometimes marijuana if there's legitimate use case, sex education as well. So you as a teacher can then make a policy decision and overrule those policies in effect, and you won't have to call your IT admin to essentially do the policy. So to add a policy, all we do is we come along and go add, select YouTube. From here, if we leave this default, it will go to the whole class. If we pick a student, then it will go just to that student, and then we choose an action. So we've gone allowed. So what we've effectively done here, while this classroom session is running to 2:18, we've allowed YouTube for the actual kids, overruling one of the policies that your IT admin has set.
Well, if your IT administrator has YouTube blocked, which I don't think they will be, right? So really where this is coming into play is for you guys to be able to really first and foremost, if I can talk right, is to really block, right? So, you know, YouTube's is allowed for your district and for your students, right? So if you wanted to actually shut down YouTube in your classroom, you would just block that. And now you've got a permanent policy and a permanent rule in place there within this class that YouTube's blocked. So even when you come back and start this class tomorrow, then that rule will still be there unless you go over to that red X and close it out and get rid of it. Now, there are opportunities where you can use this to override the district filter, right? So let's say, for example, marijuana, right? So marijuana is probably going to be blocked at a district level for all students. But maybe you're doing a research paper with your students on medical marijuana and you need them to be able to access that type of content. Well, if your IT team makes marijuana one of those categories that you're able to change, then what you would do is you would have the ability there, or the action, to put marijuana in here as allowed for your students, but only if your IT team and the district networking team allows you guys that privilege and puts that in a spot where you guys can modify it. So it's going to be limited on what you guys can unlock based on what they give you permissions to. But you can block just about anything, right? So, you know, it's really going to be there if there's certain websites or certain things that your students are using in your class period and you just never want that in your class and it's just a distraction, then you could just create a policy for that and say, well, I'm not allowing that in my class. We're just going to block that altogether.
Yep, cool. And yeah, so and this leads into policies as well. So really, really important information about policies. When you assign a policy here, it is essentially permanent until you remove it. So when this class stops, we have this policy here now. So when this class stops at 2:18 and I restart it tomorrow or this afternoon, this policy is going to be here. So what I generally say here, you as a teacher know what you need to run your class. So first time you log in, just come in and set your baseline and set what you need to run your class and just keep it there as it is. That way, when the class starts again the next day or the next week, all policies are there and you can get straight to teaching your class. There's no fiddling around of who needs access or who cannot get access. Yes, so it's very important to know that these will stay. So I always recommend to set your baseline of what you need to run your class, start your class and you're good to go. So let's just do a few different certain policies. So as we can see here, these are auto-filled. So as you see, if I start typing, I get lots of options coming up. So this is what we call signatures. So what a signature is basically all associated addresses to those servers or to those services. So Wikipedia, as an example, is a massive, massive website and is not just wikipedia.org. There are many, many sites, IP addresses on the back end to get Wikipedia to work. So when you're assigning policy and if you type and you get an autofill, always select that. That way we're bringing in all information regarding that particular service. So that's just an allowed for Wikipedia, which would be generally it's an example that would be working on your school network anyway, because it's an education site. So we can even block YouTube for an individual student. Let's just say Charlotte's doing too much YouTube. So what we've done here is we've played a policy rule saying Charlotte cannot get to YouTube. And we might want the kids to actually still get to the rest of the class to get to YouTube. So then we can just create another policy with all. So what we've effectively done there is we've said everyone can get to YouTube except for Charlotte. To remove the policy, we just click here. Typically, the signatures in all a lot of the education sites, they're all filled in here. If not, you can do it by URL. So let's do Cool Math Games as an example. If you just wanted to allow Cool Math Games, we can do that just by URL. We can also control policy through list view, and I advise this is probably the best way to deal with a problem student. So if we go to list view, we can see what everything's being accessed. I don't want Kent to be on Reddit, so I can basically click on this policy. And you will see here I have this option of session duration of during class session. And I assign that policy to the whole class and save. So what I've done there is blocked Reddit for the whole entire class, but I selected during this class session. So because I select during class session, that basically means when this class finishes at 2:18, that policy will be removed. That's pretty much the product. It is very, very, very intuitive, very easy to use. My mother's been teaching for 40 years and uses this in Australia, and she loves it and swears by it.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. So now we'll kind of open things up to questions here. So far, I've only gotten 3. I'm sure you guys got more than that. I think the last session we had somewhere around 20. So we'll start going through these. So the first question is, how does this work for system-owned devices? Or does this work only for system-owned devices? Excuse me, can't read. So yes. So the only way that this would work as far as screen visibility and controlling the device is it has to be district owned, right? Anything that's BYOD or bring your own device, we cannot put, our software is not on that device, right? So we don't have any visibility on that. But we can enforce the web filter policies that you're putting in place. So let's say that they brought this this BYOD device into your classroom, right? Be it a cell phone or whatever it may be, their own personal laptop that they brought from home. So you won't be able to see the screens on that device, but anything that you do as far as a policy or focus class or pause internet, those things will apply to that BYOD device. So you don't get the full functionality on BYOD, but you do get a little bit of it. Really, for the full functionality, it needs to be a district-owned device that they are working on. So I think that answers.
Yep, Charlotte is a good example of a bring your own device. So we won't see the active screen; we'll just see the tabs.
Correct. Yep. How many apps can we put into focus is the next question. A lot. I don't know if we know the exact number, but we've never had an issue where somebody had too many things in focus at once.
I've tested 30 and it still worked okay, but I genuinely believe it's not a decent use case. I think maximum maybe 4 or 5 for the class.
Yeah, I mean, focus is just to keep them locked in on a couple things, right? So you can put as many things in there as you want, but it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the focus. Next question. Do we have to delete a student before another teacher adds them? No, absolutely not. You do not. So when you start a class, you're going to be asked how long you want that session to be. Whether it be 10 minutes, 45 minutes, 8 hours if you're an elementary school teacher, right? So whenever that session ends, it'll automatically terminate them being in your class. And if another teacher needs to grab them, then you don't have to do anything. They'll be able to connect directly to the next teacher. What about virtual learning and using their own devices? So once again, no, they cannot use their own devices with this at home. But if they have a district owned device that they are using through virtual learning, then yes, you will be able to enroll them and use them even in a virtual environment. This is all cloud-based. It doesn't matter whether they're sitting in your room or across town. It still works. Next question is this similar to GoGuardian? Do teachers have to be signed on with their credentials and to the Newton County site? So the student, as soon as they authenticate into their Chromebook, Windows device, whatever it is, the device that they're using, they won't do anything to be enrolled in the class. The SIS integration automatically associates that and puts them in the right classes. So all you have to do is just select your class, hit start, and it automatically starts it up for the student. There's nothing that they can do to modify that or change that, or nothing that they have to start manually on their end. Is the only way that students are connected to someone is via Infinite Campus or SIS? For example, if there's a parapro is supposed to work with a small group for reading, could the para add those students? So yes, we are using your SIS. That way you guys don't have to manually create your classes, right? Now, if you have a particular teacher or assistant teacher or somebody that comes around from room to room that needs screen visibility for a couple kids occasionally, they can actually manually create a class and add the students to that. So that is a possibility for them to manually do that on a kind of like an ad hoc level, right? And Chris is going to show you here, you just create a class, name it whatever you would like.
But also, if there is a co-teacher assigned in the student information system, then they will have the exact same visibility as you do as well.
Yeah. But yeah, once you create that class, it's down here on the bottom left, then we can just simply add the students that we need to. And it'll be a drop-down selection that you just start typing in the kid's email or their username, and they'll pop up there. So if they got 4 kids that they want to grab for your class period, then they can ad hoc create these as needed. So yes, that is a possibility. How do BYOD connect with Classwize? So we are not only your classroom filter or your classroom management solution like Classwize, but LineWise, which is the name of our web filter, is now you guys' school's web filter. So we will authenticate those students on their BYOD device, know who they are, and know that association with what class they're supposed to be in. So any kind of policies that you create in here, if they're on that device during your class time, then we have that association with us being the new filter for the school district. So that's how we're able to associate the BYOD into the Classwize, although it's not the full set of features because you're not going to be able to see the screen, but you can at least know what they've been looking at and restrict them from going to certain places if you want to. Does this integrate with Canvas? So there's no direct integration with Canvas. There's really no need for it. But you can pop Canvas into your focus or things along those lines if you want to just have your kids only in Canvas, different things along those lines, right? So there's no direct integration, but you can leverage this to keep kids inside of Canvas if that's what you wanted to do. Can parents see this as well? No, parents cannot. We have a completely different product that we'll be engaging with the parent community about that will allow them to get visibility on what their kids are doing, but they will not be able to see like screens and real-time monitoring or anything along those lines. Can you screenshot what sites kids are on to show parents? Not right now. No, but that is something that we are planning on adding. It's going to be something called a student journey report, and that button will just be right out to the right of the activity button. And you know, that will allow you to grab those reports, save them as a PDF, things along those lines. That's something that we're planning on building out. But as of right now, you could go to your district level technology department and they'll have those reports available for you, because their reporting is much more robust than what you guys have from a web filter standpoint, that they can pull those reports for you if you needed them. All right, so if you restrict students to work within Canvas, will they be able to access any link embedded within Canvas assignment? So it depends on whether it's embedded or whether it redirects, right? If it's embedded, yes, they will be able to access it. If it's redirecting them to a completely different site, then you'll need to put that different site inside of the focus also to allow them to get to it, right? So if they click on a link and it sends them to YouTube, you'll need to also include YouTube in with the Canvas. But as long as it's embedded, you'll be good to go. What is the website address? So Chris will put that in the chat right now.
Yep, it's done.
And then as well as he is going to put in our training URL as well. So this training URL that he's putting in will give you guys detailed step-by-step instructions on everything that we went over today, individualized in each little video. So that way, if there's something that you forget, then you can always go back and reference these videos that that we gave you. And that's all the questions I got right now. I'm sure you guys got some more. Anybody else?
Thanks, Elijah. Yeah, it's very easy to use, and it's good. It is a good tool. It's been my baby for 2 years, and I'm very happy where it's at. So.
Let's see, just get a couple more in. If students are working on a laptop from home, that has never connected while at school, does BYOD still apply? No, if they are on a BYOD device, the only way that we can have any control whatsoever over that device is if it's inside the school building. When it's at home and it's not district-owned device, then we have no visibility, no control, no nothing. Can you repeat the directions on how to monitor the students when they have their own device? So if they bring their own device, okay, never mind. She's like, okay, you just answered. All right. How do staff get access if they are not a teacher? So that is something that you will work with your instructional technology team or IT team to get facilitated. It really depends on what part of staff you are and what they've included as being a teacher, right? Or who they've given permission to. That's more of a back end type setup. So that's something that you know, you'll need to work with your internal team on more than a question for us to answer, because they're the ones that set the permissions on who has access to students and who doesn't.
One more in chat as well.
Okay, not sure if this was asked and I missed it, but if you can do a mass block instead of setting policies for each individual class. So you still have to do it. It is a mass block, but it's just for that class, right? So there is no policy that you can create that affects all of your classes. You just have to do that by each individual class when you're creating the policies.
Yeah, I can follow up with another way you can do that as well. So here you see we have this called streaming internet. So within that streaming internet, we call a category. Within a category, we have the signatures. So the signatures in streaming media, Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus, every streaming site. So you can also find music as well, music and audio. It's Spotify, Pandora, SoundCloud, all those things as well. Career and education, that's every career and education site. So I would not advise blocking that.
Yeah. So we've got signatures for each individual website as well as categories that are kind of all encompassing. So same thing with like the marijuana one we were showing you. You know, that's instead of you having to go to find every single marijuana site out there that's educational, then you can just type in marijuana and we've already got a category for that. So a new question just came in. Did you post the website for help pages in the questions? I haven't seen it. I'm able to read the web address in the video. It is in the chat. So if you click down in the chat, you should be able to see that.
Yeah, I'll send it as well in answers.
Great. All right, I'm out of questions. Who's got some more? All right, so this question is there any way to see only your current classes? For example, my class from last year still show up, only want this year's classes. Yes, so that is a issue you'll need to take up with your internal team there, because as far as what classes we're getting and rostering and everything along those lines, that's just coming strictly from your SIS information, Infinite Campus, right? So whatever's still in Infinite Campus, that's what we're pulling, and that's what's being generated here. So that'll be a question more for Adam and his team that you'll need to talk with them about.
Generally, it means the class has not been archived or it has not been deleted. So we pull everything in from Infinite Campus.
So what is it? This is another question. This will be so helpful when students are in a class taking a test. I have circle tables, so even if I monitor, they can flash out of the browser so quickly. Oh, that wasn't a question, but we appreciate the feedback. So yes, it will help a lot. And to that recommendation, I can tell you this, my wife is a teacher. She's been a teacher for the last 15 years, and she uses this product. And when she has students, well, when they were actually in school, that seems like it's been forever ago now since this whole COVID thing, Evan. But back when they were in school, one thing she used to do is actually throw this up on her panel inside of her classroom. And so as she was walking around, the students knew that she could still see everybody's screen because it was up on the wall, right? So it's a neat little trick to use if you're going to be out engaging with the class and you still want to be able to see everybody's screen. Heck, just throw it up on your projector, your panel, and that way it keeps everybody accountable almost a little bit then, right? So. Unrelated question. How do I set up a Q&A and panelists in Zoom? I have no idea, to be honest with you.
I think you need a webinar account.
I've never used this before.
I am the Zoom admin for Linewise, so yeah, you need a webinar account, which are very expensive.
This is something that Jennifer set up through on your end through the instructional team. This is not even my webinar, so I have no idea. But yeah, good question. All right, I'm out of questions. Anybody got anything else? Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I just want to thank you guys for coming. And remember that, you know, if you need any help, we can reference, you could reference the training material that we sent out, the videos. Also, we've already trained all of your instructional technology staff on this product. So they're familiar with it. They have the resources to be able to mock in and see your class the same way that you're seeing it, right, to assist you in real time. So we would encourage you to, you know, use your internal team as an immediate resource for help. And if they can't get it resolved, have them reach out to us. But I think between the training materials that you got and the training that your team has, I think you guys should be ready to go. And I think there was a couple more questions just popped in here. Did you say we can delete a previous class? No. So you won't need to delete any classes or anything like that, because even if you did delete a class, it will come back the next day, because we do a nightly sync with Infinite Campus. So that way, if any new students get added or new classes get created for whatever reason, they automatically update every single day. So even if you delete a class, it's going to come right back to you the next morning. And then unrelated question, what is the name of the wireless headphones you are using? So these are
Jabra.
Jabra. I have no idea what model they are, but it's a Jabra headset. Works pretty well.
And you can get them wired as well.
So yeah, if there's no more questions, guys, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for everybody showing up. Hope you guys are going to like this. I know you probably will. Now you finally got some visibility, some control over your students and what they're doing on those devices. So appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to listen to us.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.